Hello, class. This is Chubbs. He's going to help us with our lesson today. We're going to look at some of my pets and some of my kids' pets. So today's lesson is going to be about dating. Like, how do we tell how old something is? So Chubbs was a stray. He adopted me, and when I took him to the vet, they estimated his age. So they looked inside his mouth. See those teeth? See those nice teeth? They looked at his teeth to estimate his age. And that's what they do a lot with animals. And so when I adopted him, he was about 3. So right now he's probably about 5 years old. You could tell that from the teeth, right? So we're going to look at that and what it means to give something an absolute date, like a numerical date, like they did with Chubbs and his teeth, or relative dating. So here's a little meme about teachers. Notice the gray hair I'm sporting here. To be fair, right before we left, I the reason it's all gray is, worrying about the virus and all. No, actually, before we left, some of you noticed I had shaved the side of my head and shaved off all the hair that was dyed. I've been gray since I was about 25 years old. Finally decided just to let it go gray. So the next time you see me, it may look like I aged about 30 years. So don't be shocked. So here's some pictures, some Earth science pictures. We've got a glacier, Mount Rainier, the Grand Canyon, arches. Can you actually figure out, can scientists figure out how old each of those things are? Do we know how old Mount Rainier is? Do we know how old the ice in a glacier is? Do we have ways of finding that out? So those are some of the big questions we'll be answering. So to do a little relative age dating, remember I told you Chubbs was about 5 years old. So these are all the pets of me and my children. And so what I want you to do, oh, poor Junior, he's being covered up here. Where can I put myself? I'll put myself up here. So what I want you to figure out is the relative dating of the pets. So what I mean by that is look and try to put them in order from the youngest to the oldest. So I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to do this in your head. I'll play some music while we do it. All right, do you think you have the answer? If Chubbs is 5 years old, were you able to put them in relative order? Well, let me show you the answer on the next slide. So the youngest animal up there was Zeus. I actually have an absolute date for him. I know he was born August 10th, 2018. So he is less than 2 years old. Next comes Mr. Dude. He's an ajolote. He lives in the classroom of my daughter. We don't have a one day date for him, but we do know he's older than Zeus because of when she got him, and he was a young salamander when she got him. So he's a little over 2 years old, in that range. Chubbs, as we said, is about 5 years old. And then we go up here to Junior, Sean Jr. I adopted Sean Jr. when my youngest Sean went off to college, and so I replaced him with a cat. And Sean Jr. was at the Humane Society, and that was actually his name was Sean. So we actually call him Junior because it's a little weird to have a cat named after your son. So then we have Clore. Clore is actually a hairless cat. That's why she looks a little weird. She has a little bit of fuzz on her, but she lives in Minnesota, and she's about 6. Floof is my son in Denver's cat, and she's sitting here on the couch ready for a back massage. And she's probably about 7, according to the record. She was also a rescue. Mariel lives in Minnesota. She is probably, this one, it's close between Floof and Mariel. Both of them have been moms before. They had litters of kittens before they were rescued. And she's probably about 7 or 8. And then there's Fezzik. Yes, I know he looks a little fat here. He is a little fat. He did weigh 22 pounds. We are down to 19 pounds. So he's doing a good job. But Fezzik I've had since he was a kitten. I don't know when he was born, but he's about 9 years old. So did you get them all right? So what we just did, I asked you to do relative dating from Chubbs because you didn't know any of their ages. But then I actually gave you an absolute date because absolute does not mean I know the exact moment. Like Zeus, I know August 10th, but I don't know what time of day he was born. Absolute means it's a numerical value. And I pretty much have a numerical value on all these animals, even though some of them are estimates. So, relative dating is determine the relative order of past events, the age of an object in comparison to another. And you might not know any of their absolute ages or estimated ages. Notice that word absolute is one that scientists use, but it does not mean we absolutely know the date. It means we have a numerical estimation of the date of how old that object is. So here's some pictures of some glass art I took at the Chihuly Glass Museum. If you have never been, it's a wonderful place when things open up again. It's in Seattle. So do you think you could look at this and put a date on the different glass artworks? Could anyone put a date on the glass? Could we tell how old the glass is by something in the glass? We could probably talk to the artist and he probably knows when he made certain things. So you can think about it. Some things are a little bit hard to figure out how old they are. Think about, look around the place you're at right now. So I did this activity. Look around your bedroom, your basement, your kitchen, wherever you're sitting. If you were to make a list of like 10 objects from the oldest thing in the room to the newest thing, and I don't mean how long you've had it, I mean their actual age, the absolute age, numerical age of the object, would you be able to make this list? Is it even possible to know how old everything is in your house? So as I look around, I see wood. There's no way I know how old that wood is. Like, did it come from an old growth tree or did it come from a tree farm? I look at my refrigerator made with stainless steel, which we know is iron and carbon. Is there any way for me to know how old that iron really is? Some iron came to us from the explosion of stars, even. So, could my refrigerator have elements in it that are billions of years old? So, it's really hard to date some things. And at the same time, it's really important to know how old some things are in the scientific world. So here's some fossils. We actually use both types of dating on fossils. We sometimes use just relative dating to be able to tell which animals, for example, came first, second, third, but we also have techniques called absolute dating where we can find out the actual age. Here's a tree ring. This is one that most elementary students are taught. It is a form of absolute dating because it gives you a number. And what it does is in the tree's growth, every ring represents about a year. So over here, you can even tell some things that happened, like there was a forest fire right here. And you can tell when there was a drought year compared to years that it grew a lot. This looks like a very fast growing tree. Look at this tree, very, very old tree. They think it, but back in 1527 is when it started, and these dots just went out and out and out all through history, what was happening in history at that time. So that's one way to get an absolute date of trees. But think about how sad this is. The only way we know how old this tree is using that method is to cut it down. And then we can get some dating going. But we don't really want to cut it down because we could count backwards, from the outer ring and just see when it first started. But yeah, that would be a very sad thing to do, right? So absolute dating is when geologists want to know the age of material they find. And they sometimes call it numerical dating, which I like that word better because when people hear the word absolute, they think it means it's right on the dot, where sometimes absolute just means within a couple thousand years, depending on what it is that you're dating. But it does give it a numerical value. That's why numerical dating. It's not just saying this one's oldest and this one's youngest. It is saying that these things are older than those things. And it's giving it an actual number to that. So this is 100 years old. This is 8,000 years old. And the number may not be 100% exact, but it is a range. So to finish off today's lesson, what you are going to do is make a PowerPoint where you answer these questions. What are the oldest known living things on Earth? Do a little research, have some pictures, put that in a PowerPoint. What is the oldest fossil that was ever found? So notice the first one, I'm talking about things that are still living. The next one, I'm talking about a fossil of the living thing. What is the oldest fossil we've ever found? And what is the oldest mountain range on Earth? So see if you can find the answer to those questions and put it together in a short PowerPoint for me. And then I want you to ask 2 questions of your own. So your last slide should be just 2 questions you have about how things are dated. So I look forward to this new learning that I think we'll all enjoy. Thank you. Bye.